Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Behind me is my 2000 MK1 Audi TT 225. Why is it behind me? Well, there's a problem with the charging system. When I start the car, the charging voltage fluctuates wildly, but after 5 to 10 minutes it does stabilise about 14.5 volts, which is what you would expect to see. Even then though, if I turn on more electrical devices like my headlights or heated seats, sometimes the fluctuation would come back again, sometimes it wouldn't. I suspect it's the alternator, or more specifically the regulator, so we'll take it out and have a look and see if we can find anything.
So if you want to know specifically how to remove the alternator from a MK1 TT, I'll put a link in the video description below to a video from Bryn at BWS TT. I expect for most of you TT lovers he'll need no introduction. In it he'll give you a step-by-step guide. Last year I did replace the regulator because the battery wasn't charging at all, and it did seem to work fine for a few months until these new symptoms appeared. So has the regulator failed already? Well, maybe, it does happen. When I did remove the old regulator, I couldn't find the part number stamped on it anywhere. I checked a few online parts stores, entering all the car details, and I was getting results with regulators with different part numbers, all saying they were suitable for my car. It's not uncommon for manufacturers to change part numbers of certain parts over the years, which supersede old ones. They do still function as intended, and bear in mind my car is over 20 years old. I did replace the regulator without removing the alternator. It is a tricky job to do, so it might be possible I didn't fit it quite right, as visibility isn't great, especially once your hands are in there. That's why this time I'm removing the whole alternator so I can be certain everything is connected properly. I had checked all the connecting cables and they all seemed fine, so I don't think my issue lied here.
Well, it's out. Sorry the camera battery died during the time lapse and I didn't realise. So let me just set you guys down somewhere and we can take a look. Okay, well straight away I can notice this cover's not quite seated properly. You can see that. Because when changing the alternator in the car, you can't get this bolt off here that holds some of the wires in place, prevent you from unscrewing the cover here. So you kind of have to bend it out of the way and slip the new regulator in. As I said before, visibility was so poor, it was mostly done by touch. I wouldn't have thought that would have made any difference, but let's just take the cover off fully and see if that reveals anything inside. Okay, yeah, I didn't think that would be the case. The sort of clip from the regulator is still pressed down fully on here. So let's just take it off and have a better look. Okay. There's the regulator. I think we'll start by giving that a test, just making sure that this is good. Right, let's test this regulator. I've got a car battery hooked up to some jump leads. So this is going to be the positive. This is where the positive post comes out of the back of the alternator, which goes directly back to the battery. So I'll just connect that one up. And negative will travel through the body of the regulator and engine and back for a ground strap. You know what I mean if you're a car guy. So I will connect that up. Just put a screw in there just to get a good connection. Right, I want it this way up. Okay. Now if I take my voltmeter, set to volts, let's put that sort of down so you guys can see it. Now at the battery, I should get the 12 volts you'd expect, 12.2, that's okay. Now with the regulator connected like this, there should be no voltage at all through the brushes. And I'm getting 10.2. Shouldn't get anything at this point, so I'm going to say that's a bad regulator. So I'll get a new one ordered and we'll do the same test and take it from there. Okay, through the magic of YouTube, it's a few days later. I've got a new regulator. I will say it's a different part number. I did have the choice of two when I did it originally, and I went with the cheaper one. It didn't say why it was cheap or anything, it just said it was suitable for my car. But I went with the more expensive one this time, just in case there is a difference. So, we unwrap it. I'll do the same test as last time. So I'll connect the positive. My little screw to help me. Okay. Voltmeter so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so at the battery. Right. Battery. Still 12.2. Touch on the brushes. Zero volts. So that was a bad regulator. Let's put it all back together and put it back in the car.
Before putting on the new regulator, I gave the connecting surfaces a quick clean to ensure a good electrical connection. There are a lot more bench tests that I could have done while the alternator was out of the car, but my MOT is due in a few days, so as I was confident the regulator was the problem, I needed to get the car put back together. For those of you outside the UK, an MOT is an annual inspection of our vehicles for safety and emissions. Maybe afterwards I'll remove the alternator again and do a more thorough test for a future video. Let me know in the comments if that's something that would interest you. As my battery died on my earlier time that she didn't see me remove the alternator. Even with everything undone and out of the way, it still takes a lot of twisting and repositioning to get it in and out. Or at least for me it did. This is the first time I've done it on a TT, so I'm sure with practice I could make it look easier. I did have to take the front wheel off to get the belt back on the lower pulley, as there isn't enough space to get my arm down the side of the engine. Despite only pulling everything apart a few days ago, it was a bit of a struggle to remember how to get it all back in. I know where it all should go, it's just remembering how I got it out in the first place. This was made more difficult because I left all the hoses connected, so I wouldn't have to reconnect them at the end. It seems simple enough when you pull things apart, but when it comes to putting them back together it can turn into an adult jigsaw puzzle. But with patience and perseverance, you always get there in the end.
It's all back together, other than the covers, etc. I'll just test to make sure it works. Just so you can see, that's sort of like the space you're working with if you try and do the job with the alternator still in the car. Once you've got your, even with this plug off, so once you've got your hand in there to do something, it's very hard to get some light in there and see what you're doing. But I don't know if you can see it, that stud I mentioned earlier that stopped you from unscrewing that cover and getting the cables off is like right down behind this pipe. I mean, ultimately it didn't matter, that cover not being on properly weren't the issue at all. And also still got to do it, but the battery was disconnected the whole time. It's good practice for when I'm doing work on the electrical systems, especially if you've got wires going straight back to the batteries, just so you don't accidentally cause a short. So I'll just get that put back on and we'll give it a quick test. Okay, moment of truth, here we go. Starts with a rough idle. Let's just check the voltage again. Oh, feels really rough. Well, something's not right. The voltage is fine, but I think I forgot to plug a sensor in. Well, let me just have a quick look. Okay, well, I found the problem. I didn't film it. That's the next day now anyway. My knee-jerk reaction was a sensor I'd unplugged, but after taking a step back and thinking about it, I realised I hadn't unplugged anything that would cause a rough idle like that. I mean, if I left this guy unplugged, I know from doing it in the past, the engine would just start and stall out straight away. So after having a think, I did have a rough idle last year, which was the PVC system, or the pipes. I don't know if you can see it under there. All the pipes under the inlet manifold were degraded, so I'd replaced all them. And at this point I'm thinking, oh god, all my repairs from last year are coming back to haunt me. But just to make sure, I did the old school method of getting some brake cleaner and just starting to spray the vacuum lines down to see if there was any change in the oil, which there wasn't. I went all around thinking about what I'd recently been doing. I turned my attention over at this side of the engine, so sprayed, couldn't find the problem. The engine was getting really bad at this point. It threw out a check engine light, which is probably for engine running too lean. And then it weren't until the last minute I had noticed this pipe, this vacuum line, which goes to the brake servo, right up in the back, if you can see, has got a really bad split in it. I couldn't see it initially because the strap brace was in the way, but that is a really bad split there. So I hit that with a little bit of brake cleaner and the engine started running fine. So just for the sake of finishing this video, I'm just going to tape that up just so the engine runs enough so we can just check the alternator out fully, and I'll get a replacement hose and get that fitted. So I'll just do that quickly and we'll jump back in the car. There we go, just a bit of electrical tape. I've wrapped it the best I could. That might still leak a bit, but hopefully it'll just be good enough to test the alternator out. Just in case anyone was wondering from earlier in the video, you can use the climate control to check the battery voltage. I do confirm all voltages displayed at the battery as well, but you don't need to see me twice. This is just easier to film. But if you press these two, this and then this, it will unlock the menu. If you use the knob we want 20C, 20, and if you press this again, it will display the battery voltage, which was a little low. But I'll start the engine and we'll see how the alternator's doing. There we go, just shy of 14 or 14, which is good. Now, I'll just start turning on some more electrical things just to see if that will maintain that. Yeah, around 14. Let's try electric heated seats. That's on. Okay. Probably hear the engines idling a lot better now. Heated seat on. Go for headlights. Yeah, drop down. 13.5. Let's try full beam. Full beam. 13.5. Give it a little rev. So it is still within range. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's fine. Okay, here's my battery voltage, 11.7, which is a bit low. There's a chance I might have damaged the battery slightly when the alternator, running the engine without the alternator working properly. But I will just, I'll leave it on charge for a little while and I'll just come back and test everything again. Well, as soon as I threw my charger on, it was saying less than 10% charged, so that might be why the initial voltage was a bit low. So I'll charge it up overnight and try again tomorrow. There is a chance the battery might be damaged though from it not being charged correctly while the engine was running, but hopefully not. So it's the next morning. I left the battery charging overnight, took it off this morning. It measured 12.7 volts. I've left it for a little while and it seems to be holding steady now at 12.5 volts, so it looks like the battery is good. When I connect it back to the car and turn the key to the on position to use the climate control, the voltage will drop a little bit, but that's to be expected. It does start the car perfectly fine, which ultimately is what the battery is there to do. Typically, you'd expect the charging voltage to be between 13.5 and 14.5 volts. When I started the car, it was pretty much in the middle of that range at 14 volts, but you would have noticed as I turned more electrical devices on, the charging voltage became lower and lower. In the end, with everything on, it was ever so slightly below 13.5 volts. This is to be expected. The more you do turn electrical devices on, the lower the charging voltage does become. but as it was just slightly outside of that range, I will keep an eye on it, but I think it would be fine. With regards to that vacuum line, I know most people tend to replace those with silicone ones. It is a nice way of making your engine bay look pretty, and I can imagine to get a genuine Audi one would probably cost nearly as much as what the car's worth. Unfortunately it's Sunday, my MOT is due Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday I've got 2 long days of work ahead of me, so I really do need to get that fixed today. So after I've finished filming this, there is a guy locally that is breaking a 225, so I'm going to go get a vacuum line off him. It might not be in much better condition than the one that I've got, but hopefully it will just get me through the MOT and I can fix it properly afterwards. All that's left now is for me to say thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.